Beyond the reaches of everyday internet browsing, there lies a more sinister platform known as the dark web. Over time, this has become a hotbed for harrowing tales of unimaginable experiences. Today, we are going to share with you a video featuring 5 of the most chilling stories that have surfaced from this corner of the internet. Brace yourself, as these are not for the faint-hearted. Number 1. Haunted laptop purchased from the dark web. Most people have heard of the dark web, the malicious underbelly of the internet where every imaginable terror can be found. Sarah was no different. She had always been drawn to the chilling stories, the whispered rumors, and the tales of individuals who had stumbled upon the terrifying corners of the deep, murky web. It had always been a haunting obsession of hers, fueled by an inexplicable mix of fear and morbid curiosity. In amongst all these dark interests, Sarah had a fascination with collecting old and peculiar gadgets. So when she discovered an old laptop for sale on a shadowy dark web marketplace, she was immediately hooked. It was an incredibly good deal. She was told that it was haunted, but she couldn't resist the allure. The laptop was delivered in a nondescript box with no return address just a few days later. Upon booting it up, Sarah's skin crawled. She felt a deep sense of unease, as if the very device in front of her was watching, listening. The laptop emitted an eerie glow that seemed to pulsate with a ghostly energy. It would turn on by itself at night, filling the silence with the hollow hum of static. She brushed off her fears as product of her imagination, telling herself that she had perhaps been consuming too many horror stories. However, over the days, the seemingly harmless machine became more sinister. It started to reveal files that were hidden, files that Sarah didn't download. Intriguing yet terrifying images of shadowy figures, unfamiliar landscapes, coded messages, and strange symbols. The laptop seemed to know things. It seemed to hold secrets, terrible, haunting secrets that it seemed eager to share. One night, a file mysteriously appeared on the screen. When she opened it, an unintelligible whisper emanated from the speakers. She leaned closer to understand, her heart pounding in her chest. Suddenly, her own name was spoken clearly, a lingering echo that sent chills down her spine. She slammed the laptop shut, but she could still hear it whispering her name in the chilling silence of her room. Sarah had to face the truth. She had not just bought a laptop. She had willingly invited an insidious entity into her home. She had thought it was a myth, a tale to keep curious people away, but the reality was far more menacing than she had imagined. The haunted laptop from the dark web wasn't just a piece of technology. It was living, breathing horror, and now it knew her name. The horrific reality of the situation chilled her to the bone. No longer was the dark web an elusive realm of cryptic horror stories. It had breached into her life, as tangible as the chill running down her spine. Her obsession with the unknown had drawn her into a grotesque nightmare, one that she was desperate to awaken from. But that escape seemed far away, as her name echoed again in the cold darkness. Number 2. Hired assassin tracked down client's address. Once the haunting occurred with the laptop purchased from the dark web, a twist of events took an even more sinister turn. A silent observer lurking in the shadowy corners of the unknown internet space had been keeping a close eye on its new prey. This oblivious victim, unknowing of the danger, had attracted the attention of a highly skilled and merciless professional, a hired assassin. Digging a little deeper into the horror of the dark web, imagine this. You wake up one ordinary morning, do your regular routine, fixing breakfast, scrolling the news on your newly acquired laptop, and not realizing you are playing straight into the hand of an unseen tormentor. Little did the user know that each click, each website browsed, each piece of information shared was being scrutinized and collected. One might wonder, how exactly did the hired assassin come across this person's address? The answer lies in the uncanny ability of these deadly predators to exploit the smallest of details or weaknesses within the system. Using advanced hacking skills, The assassin was able to siphon off personal data, banking details, social media profiles, and alas, tracking down his living address. The ordeal grew more terrifying as the realization dawned upon the poor victim. The seemingly innocent laptop played betrayer, the conduit between the victim and this cold-blooded hunter. Each time he logged onto the internet, the assassin moved a step closer, worming his way into this person's life until his address was in clear sight. The assassin, now having this valuable piece of info, stood on a vantage point. He didn't waste time. He quickly embarked on his sinister mission, tailing his victim like a persistent shadow. Days turned into weeks, but the target remained oblivious to the veiled danger. The assassin relished the thrill of lurking in the darkness, his eyes never leaving his unsuspecting prey. In the quiet of one seemingly ordinary night, the assassin silently made his move, invading the sanctity of his victim's home, transforming their safe haven into a nightmare. The victim, after tirelessly scouring the dark web, never imagined all this unspeakable horror wouldn't come from the menacing websites visited, but from his very own living room. The suspense grew thicker than the darkness surrounding the house. The low murmurs of the victim typing was the only sound, unaware of this night's chilling events to come. Suddenly, the assassin crept out of the shadows, leaving the gruesome end to your darkest imagination. Number 3. Unwittingly watched live execution on shadowy site. After a few hours spent immersed in the bizarre corners of the dark web, Tara stumbled across an icon promising live feed. Curiosity piqued. She clicked on the link. The buffered screen gave way to a grainy black and white live stream portraying two figures in a dimly lit room. This wasn't some ordinary live stream. This was a shadowy site procured from the labyrinth of the dark web. A dull sense of apprehension began to gnaw at her. One figure appeared tied to a chair, head lolling to one side. The other, masked and ominous, circling the room. Initially believing it to be an elaborate setup for a horror movie, she sat frozen to the spot as the masked figure began to interact with an unseen audience in a disturbingly serene voice. It dawned upon her with a sickening realization that what she was witnessing wasn't an act. The tied-up figure was a real person, and this was a sickening display of live execution. Her heart pounded at the gruesome scene unfolding before her eyes, the sanctity of her mundane life tarnished by voyeuristic implicature. She tried to close the screen, but some insidious coding kept the feed open, forcing her to bear the nightmarish spectacle. She watched, petrified, as the masked torturer drew a blade, every small movement captured in disturbing clarity. Tara was trapped, the dead-eyed stare of the victim and the torturer's twisted glee forever etched in her mind. Then, with a cruel flourish, the execution was carried out, the torturer turning to the camera and taking a theatrical bow. The grisly scene left her paralyzed, the chilling echo of mocking applause etched deeply into her mind. The mask was removed. A face stared into the camera, flushed with sickening triumph. The face was vaguely familiar, the smirk eerily similar. It was her own reflection staring back at her through the monitor. The horrifying realization sank in, striking her silent. She wasn't just an unwitting spectator in this vile spectacle. She was a participant. The dark web, it turns out, had many ways of pulling you into its shrouded abyss, of making your worst nightmares come to life. As she shivered uncontrollably, she heard a soft, malicious chuckle emanating from the speakers on her laptop, accompanied by a new message on the screen. "See you soon, Tara," it read. The words, innocent in any other context, seemed to writhe with malevolent intent on her computer screen. She stared, mouth agape, at the potential horror that was ominously spelled out in those three simple words. It wasn't a spectator's nightmare, it was her own. Number 4. Video of her own home surveillance on sale. Shocked, she stared at the screen, her heart pounding against her chest as she recognized the brickwork of her own house. The chilling familiarity of the footage made her blood turn to ice. A home surveillance video that should have only been accessible on her personal home security system was now available for purchase on this shadowy subsection of the internet. As she clicked play, she noticed the timestamp. It was just from last night. Her fingers trembled above the keyboard, anxiety pushing heavy against her chest. There she was, on screen, framed in the soft glow of her living room lamp, totally oblivious to the danger she was in. She was captured sleeping on the couch while binge-watching her favorite show. She clicked off the video, feeling a sinking sensation of genuine fear, of feeling so violated. Someone had been watching. Someone had broken into her system, compromising her security, her privacy. She was exposed to whoever was on the other side of the screen. All the protective walls she had put around her virtual world had fallen asunder, leaving her bare and defenseless. The more she thought about it, the more the fear stirred. Her teeth clenched at the memory of the creepy comments and bids under the video. Their sordid interest in her life scared her more than the actual breach of security. She tried to imagine the faces behind the usernames, behind the screens, watching her every move, every vulnerability captured with horrifying precision. The reality hit her hard. Her home was no longer her sanctuary, her safe haven. In the back of her mind, she knew that this was just the beginning. Hours of aimless clicking and major curiosity on shady sites had led her to this, and now she was about to pay for it in the cruelest of ways. The viewers, hidden behind the veil of anonymity, held her home and possibly her life too in the palm of their cold, gloating hands. In the dead silence of the night, she heard a faint noise, the telltale beep of a home security system being disarmed. Her blood ran cold. In that moment she realized it wasn't just her online self they were after. They were coming for her, in real life. Her heart froze as she heard the creaking hum of the front door slowly, ever so slowly, inching open. Number 5. Became victim of identity theft after curious browsing. After an intense few weeks of intimidating events, things only got worse when she fell victim to identity theft, a direct consequence of her seemingly innocent browsing activities on the dark web. An unknown entity had successfully broken into her digital life, tearing through her personal security like a ghost in the night. Fear began to knot in her belly as she realized the severity of the situation. They had access to her life, a life that had been intricately constructed over time, preserving her rich past, present, and future dreams. Bills, letters from her bank, documents bearing her hand-drawn signature started appearing in her mail. All had been intercepted, redirected, tampered with in an attempt to disintegrate her identity. Her email account was brimming with messages acknowledging changes she hadn't made, new passwords, conveyances of funds, even changes to her legal name and contact details. Every online platform she had ever signed up for seemed to be compromised, twisting her reality into a real-life nightmare. Was it a morbid prank, or was someone truly seeking to overwrite her existence? She couldn't comprehend the motive behind this heinous intrusion. She began falling down a rabbit hole of paranoia, each day getting darker and darker. The more normal she tried to make things, the more reality seemed to shatter around her. Chronicles of her life as she knew it were slowly being wiped out, replaced by the nefarious actions of a faceless predator lurking in the digital shadows, adding a terrifying touch to her ordeal. Her financial assets took a nosedive as every penny was slowly and systematically being drained away, leaving her with a hollowed existence. Law enforcement tried to help, but these digital criminals were too elusive, their tracks almost invisible. No matter how many layers of security she tried to build around her, they penetrated each one, their invisible presence haunting her every virtual step. The scam wasn't just terrifying, it was utterly horrifying, the worst part being her helplessness. She felt like she was clinging onto the shreds of her existence, slowly losing grip. The virtual phantom was relentless, relentless in an attempt to erase her, surgically removing her from her own life. It was the perfect horror story of the digital age, a bleak reminder of how unsafe the world of technology could be. Every night as she plugged in her haunted laptop, she couldn't shake off a horrible dread. Her nightmares were no longer restricted to her dreams. They were her grim reality, a chilling revelation of what the dark web was capable of, that her own curiosity had backfired in a way she could have never predicted. To this day, she lives under the constant terror of seeing her own life being conducted remotely by malicious hands, hoping for a day when the chilling mystery unravels. So, the dark web is a pretty chilling place, as you've seen from these horrible tales. It's a grim reminder to be cautious in the web's darker corners. If you enjoyed this video and want more spine-tingling tales, click like and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.